welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me for a special Browns preseason game reaction podcast and AFC North projections is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this Saturday evening?
I'm great. I'm expecting to be like bare minimum good and be called legendary for it.
And joining us because, on a momentous legendary night such as last night, we have to bring in downtown Ron Brown to get his perspective. Ron, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm a little rusty, but we're trying to get back into the swing of things. So just pleased to be with you fine gentlemen for another podcast episode. Honored to be a guest.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Jimmy and I did a podcast just 2-3 weeks ago with a really big deep dive into the Browns offseason that also turned into a little bit of an over-under season projection. So I'll link that in the description below. We'll try not to copy ourselves too much. But let's start with you, Ron. The Cleveland Browns for the 2025 season, their over-under sits at about 5.5. Do you think the Browns will win more or fewer than 5.5 games?
You never really know what's going to happen in the season, especially with injuries. And the AFC North can be kind of funny sometimes. But I honestly don't think the plan is for them to win too many games this year. I think they want those draft picks low. So I would go under. I think the last time I looked, it was plus 3,300 or something like that. So, I mean, if you really want to put that bet out there and try to go and get a big windfall of cash, and maybe you can do that. But, yeah, I don't see 5 wins out of this team. I think 4 would be a godsend, to be honest.
That's where Jimmy and I both came down on. And just so those of you out there listening, right now the 5.5 number is minus 140 on the under and plus 115 on the over. So if you're positive on this team, there's money to be made there if they do that. I don't think they're going to do it. Jimmy, everybody's talking about what happened with Shedeur Sanders last night. I think he looked okay. He's a 5th-round pick. He fell in the draft. I don't know what people were expecting. What were you expecting, and what did you think of his performance?
Okay. All right. So I think Shedeur Sanders looked fine for a 5th-round draft pick who started because the rest of the quarterback room was injured, and the guy who's going to start week 1, they don't want to get injured. If that would have been the performance from a guy drafted in the 1st round, I would have lost my damn mind. Nothing Shedeur Sanders did in that game last night was special, was out of the ordinary, was not something a backup quarterback in the NFL should be able to do. I believe he completed 3 passes over 15 yards, and most of the deep balls he tried to throw were like horrifically bad. And he threw a couple Deshaun passes where a guy was standing wide open 5 feet from him, and he ducked it in the dirt. I think it was perfectly acceptable for a 5th-round draft pick. I don't understand anybody that could watch that and go, well, now that's the guy that needs first-team reps. There's no way that you think that is a better performance than what Joe Flacco would do. There's no way. As I texted with you yesterday, they called that game legendary, and Kevin Stefanski has coached Kyle Lauletta to better lines in a preseason game. So I don't understand why the reaction was so this is incredible when I didn't see anything incredible. I saw what a competent quarterback in the NFL should be able to do as a 5th-round draft pick, but not as a guy who you're going to expect to start week 1 or contribute early to the success of the team. I think that is where I come down with it.
Ron, what were your thoughts on how Shedeur Sanders played and handled himself last night?
Yeah, so I'll quote my 9-year-old daughter who saw the touchdown, the first touchdown, and said, "That's a Super Bowl team right there." Obviously, she is a delusional child, just like the rest of the Browns franchise. But, no, I was impressed to the point where I think that, watching a lot of Shedeur in college, you saw some basic raw talent that he had, and he handled himself, I think, very well. I think Jimmy hit the nail on the head with the part about him looking like a competent quarterback in the NFL, which, as a Browns fan, we have seen many players not look competent at many positions over the last, since 1999, So that was good to see. I was excited for it. I don't think that we should start, planning parade routes or anything like that, but I think the phrase that's being used by a lot of the media is that he has earned himself more opportunities. Now, I think you're going to start Joe Flacco. I think you kind of have to. And I think that, if Kenny Pickett is healthy, then Kenny Pickett should probably be number 2. I have no idea why they drafted Dylan Gabriel. Outside of the fact that he has learned many playbooks. But, I would put Shedeur ahead of him. But, yeah, give the kid some more opportunities. Let him go. And I think he's going to get those, whether or not he's really, a first-round talent or not. Just based off of availability, it seems like Dylan Gabriel is not going to be ready to play this next game either. And I'm not sure what Kenny is on the chart for starting or playing or getting any reps as well, too. So Joe should get the majority of them. Shedeur should get whatever's left over. And let's see what he does with those and, how he handles it. But I think he handled himself very well. He looked professional. He looked confident. This is probably the best offensive line he's ever played behind. So he's probably like, man, I never had this much time before, so that looks good.
I just want to throw out a few past preseason games. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 8 of 11, 82 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, and a touchdown, no picks. How about Tyler Huntley last year? 17 of 22 for 146 and 3 touchdowns. This is preseason football. I know it's Shedeur Sanders, so everybody's going to lose their mind, and they're going to want him to start. I with you guys, he looked fine. Things to build on, maybe some stuff you really want him to not do. The running back, the one play where he ended up just throwing it away, it ended up just being an incompletion, but he kept doing that, running backwards and then running backwards and then trying to get a pass downfield. I don't ever need to see that. That's trouble.
One thing Ron hinted at, with playing in the AFC North, obviously I don't think weather is going to be that big of a deal. I mean, he played in Colorado, so he's going to be okay with the weather. But with guys like Trey Hendrickson and Roquan Smith and TJ Watt and other super big hitters that play on defense in the AFC North, you cannot, they've got to stop him. If he's going to play, okay, you've got to stop him celebrating after every 5-yard pass.
I don't know, that's what everybody does. Receivers are doing first down symbols when they're down 5 touchdowns.
But I've been told Cleveland quarterbacks aren't allowed to do that. I've been told that when Cleveland quarterbacks celebrate anything besides a Super Bowl victory, it's being immature. So they've got to stop that now. Because I'm a little afraid for him, because you start doing that Franz Harkinen stuff against Roquan Smith, you might end up on a stretcher.
Yeah, I mean, some of this baked into their personality, I feel like, too. And I don't think it's at the obnoxious level yet. So, I'm not – I'm with you, Jimmy, where you're saying, we can't over-celebrate. But, his foot, this is his opportunity. So I think he's emotions are probably high. He's doing his little, his watch thing or whatever it is that the kids do now. It's not the same as the money sign, which I felt like was just you're not even doing anything out there. You threw a 6-yard pass and you're doing it, But I do want to say, I think he had some really nice passes, and you can see where the natural talent is. Because I always kind of fall back to the 4 things: are you bigger, faster, stronger, or smarter than your opponents? And I don't think he's really any of those things. But I think that he is just pretty good at a lot of stuff.
Agreed.
And he just has a lot of natural talent the ball does come off of his hands really nicely. And the ball looked nice going at Colorado to Travis Hunter, and it looks good going to, like, guys that probably are going to be playing on the practice squad. And, like, some of those those touch passes, his accuracy, I feel like he's got enough talent to combine with some accuracy where there's something there. And I think that's what the consensus is with a lot of people. It's like, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but there's something. And if you're looking at, like, someone like Brock Purdy, who could be, like, the Mr. Irrelevant, and now people hype him up to be, like, one of the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL, then why couldn't it be Shedeur?
Right. And, I think I've got to be fair because my thing is, nobody knows if Shedeur Sanders can be a viable starting quarterback in the NFL. But I feel like this current fan base with this current organization, there's just a lot of shit we just forget just immediately. And while I believe that nobody knows good or bad, there was touch on some really nice passes. His first time playing in a game. He also airmailed a ball 30 yards out of bounds where the camera couldn't even pick up where it landed. Right. So he had good touch at times. He also threw some really bad passes. And I think we all, myself included, where I didn't see anything special. And I've been told the only thing that can make the Cleveland Browns good is a special quarterback. So I don't understand the point of giving reps to a guy that, to me, doesn't look special. Like you say, he's got some touch. He's kind of good. I was told that's not good enough to be the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. So I think that's where the problem's going to be. Like, because he looked okay at times. He looked bad at times, which is what he was going to be. It was really kind of almost an unfair situation for him. Because I think we all know Kevin Stefanski. As soon as Pickett is healthy, Pickett is going to get his second team reps right back. And you drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders, so it would be unfair to not give Dylan Gabriel a chance to do what Shedeur did. Like, this is why you shouldn't have 27 quarterbacks in the QB room.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing right there. They're trying to develop two rookie quarterbacks while bringing in a new quarterback and bringing in a new quarterback, but he's kind of an old quarterback because you brought him in, 2 years ago and he got kind of hot. He still threw a lot of picks. And that's what I expect to see from Joe Flacco at the beginning of the year. And that leads into what this offense is. I think this offense is going to be really ugly. Ron, do you have any hope of this offense actually looking good throughout the year?
No, and, so, like, I kind of look at this offense, like, I obviously know that Joe Flacco is going to be the starter. And
even though they really want Kenny Pickett to win that.
Yeah. I mean, just because Kenny's not 109 at this point, like, I feel like it's like Jimmy's point, like, like, you want someone to be special. Nobody in that quarterback room really jumps off the table of being special. I think Shedeur comes the closest. I think Joe obviously was special, but now he's at the end of the career, so I don't think we really look at him as a viable option for, like, that special guy. But, like, this offense has got some nice pieces. I think the offensive line will be serviceable, and I like Jerry Jeudy. The rest of the receivers, I think you could, just get guys that are cut from other teams. I mean, none of these guys are good.
No hope in Deontay Johnson resurrecting his career on?
Not at all. No. David Bell is still on this roster, who I liked it as a draft pick, as a long shot, but, like, he hasn't really shown anything either. Outside of Judy and Njoku, those are your only two pass catchers where, like, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're like, okay, let's stay concerned with these two guys. I think Jerome Ford is a good football player, but he's not Nick Chubb. There's no fear factor in there.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to see Quinchon this year, who I thought fit really well in this offense. So, like, I just don't know what you're really going to hang your hat on. I mean, like, we're hoping that they can play the run, that they can run the ball, and this offense has shown that they can at least have something going with the run game.
I feel like we've said that. I just feel like we've said that so many times over the years where it's like, oh, if they can just run the ball, Jimmy and I like and agree with you on the offensive line. If all of those guys are healthy, I think they could be really good. It's just, how much hope do you have that those guys can actually stay on the field, Ron?
I mean, it's a crapshoot. I mean, this is a really tough league, and so who knows? And we always said, the AFC North it's a grind. There's some tough physical play that goes on there, and you have to have that next man up mentality. So I mean, if they're healthy, like you said, yes. Here's the thing that I want to know is because I'm curious. I felt like Joe Flacco when he was here last time. He's going to throw you 3 touchdowns. He's going to throw you 3 INTs, but at least he's not scared to throw the ball, which was a big problem that we were having with the other guy who should now be named, was throwing. And then I watched last year at Indy, and I'm like, wow, Joe Flacco looks terrible. But I can't figure out whether or not it's just Joe Flacco suck or is it the Colts suck and that brought him down. I can't. And even looking at the numbers, I'm just like, oh, they're not as bad as I thought that he was. It doesn't look terrible, but, he had, I think, he played 8 games. He started 6 of them. He had 12 touchdowns, 7 picks, he got sacked 113 times, that's to be expected too, so I just can't tell if he's going to be that guy, because I think it's really Cleveland Brownie for us to get this old guy back at quarterback and expect him to throw 3 and 3 again, something similar to that, and have Father Time finally go, yeah, I was waiting for you to get back here to do this.
Yeah, I know when Jimmy and I were talking before, I think I said all 4 of these quarterbacks are going to start and Watson. I think they're I think 4 of these 5 guys are going to play this year. Jimmy, remind everybody how do you see this quarterback situation playing out?
I think Flacco gets through probably the first 4 or 5 games, because I really do think the start of you better get the Bengals early. You better beat Cincinnati in week 1, or depending on how fast Minnesota gels, you could be 0-5, 1-4. Minnesota's added a lot of new pieces with the new quarterback, so you might be able to get the Vikings, but you better get the Bengals in week 1. And I think the only possibility of that is Flacco starting. But I agree with you. I actually agree with what Ron said to start. I don't think the organization wants to win a whole lot of games to start. I think if Gabriel, Pickett, and Shedeur play and they look good in losses, I think that's exactly what the organization wants. But that it gives
they want Arch.
They want Arch, and maybe he's the next thing. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But I think they want that opportunity. They want that possibility. Now, maybe one of these guys or all of them combined to win 7-8 games. I don't really see that happening. I think 6 would be the absolute maximum games they could win with the schedule they have. And that's if you beat everybody you're supposed to beat, which isn't usually a Kevin Stefanski trait during the season. So I don't know how that will go, but I agree with you. I think Flacco has to start to try to not have the ship sunk by week 3, where you've lost 4 games, 40-0. I think Flacco has to start, but I agree with you. I think whichever quarterbacks remain healthy, I believe they will get a chance to play.
Jimmy, you just perfectly segued into something I wanted to bring up and toss off of you guys. That I wanted to bring up and bounce off of you guys. I don't think they're just tanking for this year. I think they're going to tank next year because it looks like Arch isn't coming out next year. All of this just smells like a toned down version of 1-31. And it really, because there's just no urgency from this coaching staff or front office. What's the feel I get from everybody is that they're like new hires, like they just started. And it's all right, yeah, we're going to get 2 or 3 years to kind of figure this out. It's kind of a mess, but it's not. They've done this for 5 years. And I don't know, as bad as the offense is, Ron, do you expect the defense to be better?
I mean, I hope so, because listen, they traded a lot of they passed on some really good players, and I think some guys that are one day going to be gold jacket players to get Mason Graham. And so, like, I mean, like, and the thing is, my concern is that, like, that's not a sexy position unless you're Ndamukong Suh, you know. So, like he was a player that really got in there and stuffed the run and went after the quarterback. And I don't know if you're getting that. Obviously, Ward is great, but, like, how often does he get hurt? I think he's actually underrated, which is amazing for as good as a corner as he is.
Wow,
he just,
really? You think Denzel Ward? I think he's horribly overrated. I think he's really good at times, but this is a guy that 2 out of every 3 weeks can't remember if they're in cover 3 or cover 4 and gives up a deep touchdown pass.
Well, you know, when you have a concussion like every 4 weeks, that's
fine, but he's not a top 5 cornerback in the league anymore.
I think, but he does play well against some of the better guys. Like guys like Jamar Chase seem to regard him highly as a tough matchup. And so, like, it's not the same thing as like a Joe Hayden, where I feel like Joe Hayden was great against like these big, strong, physical wide receivers, but then you got like a shifty guy, and his shoes are getting tied up, and he's falling down. You know, and Ward seems to be able to do it all. I think it's really just like that not being on the field sometimes, which really is the issue for me. And Miles, you know, like I think it's just like fatigue, as great a shape as he is, you know, when your offense is this bad, and I don't care how good your defense has to be like 85 Bears, Ray Lewis Ravens, all combined to be able to sustain that. And like and I felt like at least at some points with Jameis last year, they were able to remotely look like an offense. And I think the biggest problem was obviously that Watson wasn't passing the ball, and he wouldn't trust himself. And that ain't Winston's problem, you know. He'll throw it to anybody, whether it's him or not. But like that defense just got so fatigued and so run down that I felt like that was their biggest issue. And then you have these injuries as well too that just really seem to slow it down. I don't think it's enough to turn the corner. I think it's enough to keep them. I think what we're attributing most of that, if they're going to get to 5 wins, we're attributing that 5 to probably the defense for at least 4 of them. And
where they just go out there.
A great day one day.
Yeah, where they just go out there and hold somebody to less than 10 points, and you know the Browns get a touchdown and kick a couple field goals.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the unit that's like, you know, that's the breadwinners on this unit right now.
Yeah, I think the defensive line could be really good with Mike Hall, Garrett, and if Mason Graham can be, you know, if he can be what Mike Hall kind of was turning into, and Mike Hall can progress a little bit more, like that's 3 guys on the defensive line that can cause problems.
And don't forget about Carson Schlesinger too. You know, like that's another guy that they drafted.
Thanks. That actually helped jog my memory. Because Jimmy, we've been clamoring for the Browns to focus on inside linebacker and defensive tackle for years. They finally did it. What are you expecting out of Graham and Schlesinger?
I think they'll be good. I don't know if they'll be great. I got to be honest. I think Schlesinger made some nice tackles last night, but he looked small on the field. Like he looked like he cannot tackle Derrick Henry in a hole. Not that that's really, you know, not a lot of linebackers. That shouldn't be a knock on him, but he didn't look. He looked small for an inside linebacker with the green dot on his helmet. But he made some good tackles. I think they especially with JOK being gone possibly forever. Like I think they were picks they had to make. They had to get better in the middle of the defense, and I think they did that. It's hard to say how much better they're going to be, but they're going to be better because those were the problems have been.
Yeah, if you're weak in the middle, it really makes it difficult to do anything.
Yeah, and unfortunately for like the fans too, it's like that's something that's easy to overlook. You know, because you really have to watch every single play, and you have to notice that it's like, oh, it's 1st and 10. Oh, now it's 2nd and 8. oh, look, they're trying to run it again. It's 3rd and 7, or something like that. So, you really have to pay attention to that. And in the end, eventually everybody breaks because of, if your offense isn't good, then you're just going to get punched so many times. And, he's not one of those D tackles that are going to go and attack the quarterback and make these special sacks that, kind of turn the drive around. So it's going to be a real hard thing to notice.
Yeah, but I think if he can be good enough to get some attention, that's the real thing that they've never really been able to unlock with Miles, is putting somebody else on the line that really takes attention away from him so that you have to worry about more than just Miles, because he's going to get double teamed all year and they're going to chip him with a third guy and, they're going to throw sand in his eye and all that other stuff that they do. And it's just when they throw 3 guys at Miles, the other guys have to make him pay. And I don't know, who was the guy they had 2 years ago? He was older. Zedarius. Yeah. Zedarius was kind of good enough to make him pay sometimes, but they really needed another guy at Zedarius's level to really make something happen. So I guess I'm hoping if Graham and Hall can be sort of that Zedarius level player, they should be able to win some of those one-on-ones and make some of those plays. At least that's what you would hope if you're the Browns coaching staff.
I would be way more excited if Mason Graham played more like Jalen Carter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I totally agree. Because Jalen Carter is a stud.
And that's what yeah, and I know Mason Graham is a stud, but I just don't look at him the same way as Jalen Carter.
It's almost like there's a nastiness factor.
I think Mason Graham is nasty. I think he has an attitude and an edge. I just don't think that he's one of those guys. I'm trying to make the comparison to somebody, but maybe in basketball where you would get a guy where he's going to get you 20 and 10, but it's a really exciting 20 and 10. Mason, Mason Graham's more I'll get you 20 and 5. He's more like an Andre Miller, just
yeah, he's quieter on the field.
He's going to make sure everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a big thing the Browns defense needs out of Mason Graham is those 6 run plays a game where Myles Garrett is not interested in playing defense, that Mason Graham is able to make an impact on those plays.
Wow, I think that's a really good point. And there's always that one drive that they just, I don't know why they just give him a drive off, because every time they give him a drive off, the other team just marches right down the field and scores a touchdown. Mason Graham has to be a guy. Yeah, Mason Graham has to be a guy that when Myles Garrett is off the field for that drive is able to make some plays, even if he's double teamed. He's going to have to find ways to make plays, because that's really what they need to change. Because you just come into the game and you're down 7-0 because there's a drive Myles isn't on the field and you're not stopping anybody.
Yep.
Let's wrap up the Browns. Jimmy and I are amazed that these guys still have their jobs, and I mentioned it earlier that nobody in the coaching staff or front office seems to have any sort of sense of urgency. They seem to be tanking. Ron, Jimmy and I were talking yesterday about everybody sort of gives Stefanski the QB whisperer. That's sort of what people think about Kevin Stefanski. We couldn't come up with a quarterback that Kevin Stefanski has actually been the coach of for their best season. What is your, they got 2 rookie quarterbacks. Do you think Kevin Stefanski can develop them?
No. Well, let's put it this way. I don't think there's much to developing Gabriel. And let me start with prefacing with this.
Maybe I should ask the question differently and say, do you think Kevin Stefanski can get the most out of those players?
I don't think the Browns' offense is conducive to getting the most out of a lot of guys.
In the situation that they're in, obviously, the roster is what the roster is. So, within the confines of that, how, do you think, there's a level that's the best that they could be in the situation they're in? What percentage of that do you think Stefanski can get them to?
I think that he could probably get Shedeur and possibly Pickett to like max out what their ceiling is for this first year. Understanding that Shedeur was kind of projected as a 1, went in the 5th, isn't getting lots of reps. I think that you could probably duplicate some of what happened in yesterday's game, where you went into the game thinking like, okay, he isn't going to be able to do too much, and then you kind of go, oh, that's nice. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was really nice. And you see some of these things and expect them to like make a slight growth.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get that at all with Dylan Gabriel. I think it really is a height thing. I know it sounds like I'm beating up on him, and
No, I think that's very fair because Darryl Ryder has said a number of times, 7-on-7, he looks awesome, and as soon as the offensive and defensive lines comes in, you can tell he doesn't know where the receivers are because he can't see them. So I think that's a perfectly fair
I think
criticism.
that's just a height thing. Yeah, you just have to be so dynamic at that height, and I think that like he really got exposed with that playoff game in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. He just did not. I mean, he had like 1 or 2 drives, but other than that, like he just really couldn't get it. But I'm also surprised because like I didn't really know that Kevin Stefanski, and I love Stefanski. I don't want them to get rid of him. I want him to stay. I feel like he gives them a certain stability that I do like. I do question a lot of things that he does sometimes, but like I also think that like he is trying to balance doing what the front office wants to do and trying to win games with players that he has and do it for his players. I'm shocked that he has this reputation as the quarterback whisperer. I don't know where he got that. I always looked at him as like, this is a good run scheme, and like you can get like Jerome Ford shouldn't be getting whatever he gets in other systems, but this system is good enough, even with the patchwork offensive line, that he will be able to at least do something. So like I don't think that he is that whisperer. That seems to go to in the name escapes me, the coach from the Vikings. I feel like he's the guy that gotta get that quarterback whisperer type of.
I totally agree with you. That what he does in Minnesota, although it does help to have Justin Jefferson, seems to make everybody look great. That guy's amazing. Let's just sort of wrap things up on the Browns. Jimmy, just sort of put a bow on it from your perspective on what are you hoping to see from the Browns this year, even if you're not expecting them to win a lot of games?
I think I guess what I want to see is the young core of players they've put together in the last couple of years because of the cap hell that they're in playing better. I think that's where you're at. You know, I think that the Emerson injury was really bad because, I mean, he vastly underperformed from his first year last year, but the couple weeks he had in camp, all reports were he was looking much better, and now he's out. But I think you just have to hope the young guys play well, play at a level that is competent to be on an NFL roster, and they don't get embarrassed week in and week out. Because I really think, like if there's anything going well for the team, after the first 10 games, I think there's actually, there could be some winnable games if they have a quarterback who's performing at a decent level, but I don't think that's possible because I think the skill position groups are bad like that. That's just, I think that's just, especially without Judkins. I think Judkins may have tipped that scale a little bit, but without him being there, I just think the skill position rooms aren't good enough. I still question, Jerry Jeudy's performance when it's an even game, when the Browns aren't down multiple scores and the defense is just playing a soft zone trying to get the clock gone. So I would like to see how that looks. I would, maybe Flacco does look good for 3 or 4 games. Maybe Pickett looks good. You hope either the young core of players looks good or they are going to tank for 2 years, but this brain trust has an idea of how they're going to do it and what they're going to do with it.
So, Ron, you don't think they're going to win a lot of games either. So, same question. What would be a successful season for the Browns, even if they say win 3 or 4 games?
I do want to say this, like with the Browns. My daughter is now a Browns fan, and I apologize for doing that to her. And she also said, I think the Browns are going to win the Super Bowl, and I said, I'm going to put $100 on our mantle in our living room, and if the Browns win the Super Bowl, you can have that. But I'm so confident that I will continue to do this every year until the Browns win the Super Bowl. And so if they win it 20 years from now, I will roll over all that money. And I said, honey, you're never going to get that money. Ever. Ever. You're just going to have to wait for me to die, and then you take it off the mantle, and you can use it. So, like, obviously Super Bowl's out of the question. I think that you have to have this, like Jimmy said, too. It's just like, this obviously isn't getting fixed this year. I think that when you had the opportunity to get somebody like Travis Hunter, who I think can be a transcendent player, and the reports out of camp are that he is looking like that, that the guys that you took have to play well enough to justify you doing that. So Mason Graham has to kind of play good enough where you have to go, this guy's playing this position for our team for the foreseeable future, and that's a great thing. I'm not saying he's got to be in Ndamukong Suh or Jalen Carter, but he's got to do great for us. Same thing with Schlesinger. And then if Quinshawn ever comes and plays, but, maybe Sampson, some of these guys do step up and, can be good for this team. And it can't be this embarrassing feeling. We can't have a factory of sadness feeling where, you just don't want to watch. I mean, if they lose, they can lose every game, and honestly, I won't lose them a wink of sleep. Won't bother me at all because I expect them to lose stuff. So, yeah, it just can't be embarrassing for the fans because, hey, you're trying to get a new stadium, and you're trying to do all this fun stuff, and nobody wants to come and see a bunch of losers play. So you got to fix it.
And that's part of why I think they're in full tank mode for the next 2 years. They're worried about being good that first year in the Dome. Like, they want to have something for that. They don't just want to limp in with Joe Flacco and, a third and fifth round pick.
I think, Evan, I think the honest answer to your question is if they only win 3 or 4 games, there's really nothing good to take away from it.
I think there is. I think you guys really covered it. I'm not expecting either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders to cement themselves as the quarterback of the future. But if Schlesinger and Graham can show themselves to be really good players as rookies, you would project them out to get at least a little better over the next couple of years, and that could be something. Let's switch gears, and that's the Browns. We think they'll stink, but we're going to watch them anyway because that's what we do. The AFC North is at sometimes considered the best division in football. I don't know if I agree with that this year, but they certainly have some good teams. Let's take a look at the other 3 teams. The favorite to win the division is the Baltimore Ravens. They're plus 105 to win the division, plus 350 to win the conference, and plus 700 to win the Super Bowl. They're one of the top 4 teams. Their over-under sits at 11.5. You can find different levels of that. They've sort of teetered at maybe coming down to 10.5, but find your best odds out there. Jimmy, what are you expecting from the Baltimore Ravens this year? Is this the year they can finally make a Super Bowl?
I think the Ravens added a couple of really good pieces on defense that may be able to help push them to where they don't have to rely on Lamar to win shootouts all the time. I personally the AFC North in general has a pretty tough schedule this year with where they draw. The Ravens have a couple stretches of 3 games that are really, really tough. I think they're going to win 11 games. I don't really think they can get to 12. I think their schedule is just not set up to get to 12. So where I can find it at 10.5, I'm taking the over. Where I got it at 11.5, I'm taking the under. I think 11 really is their cap. I don't know yet if I'm ready to say they're the team in the AFC, but I think the Chiefs are ready to take a step back, and it's got to be either the Ravens or the Bills to get to that next level. So I think they're going to play in an AFC championship game this year. I think this will be their deepest playoff run. I don't know if they'll go to the Super Bowl yet. I haven't quite decided on that, but I think they'll get to 11 wins. I think they'll win the division. I think they'll be one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC.
I agree with a lot of that. I also have them winning the division. And I should mention the AFC North this year plays all the teams in the AFC East and the NFC North, which I think the NFC North is probably the best division in football, but that'll be a later podcast. I agree with you about I like the over at 10.5 and the under at 11.5. They play, on top of what I just said, they play Houston, Kansas City, and Detroit. And they just have a brutal schedule. Ron, what do you think this season looks like for Baltimore? Do they just have another season-ending heartbreak in the second round?
I watch them, and it's really hard to kind of pinpoint what's wrong with them because you have the defense.
Yeah.
You have a quarterback that's very talented. You have a pretty good offensive line. You got Derrick Henry, which is an anomaly at running back, even at his age now. And the receivers, I think, are where the issue is. Like, they don't have...
100%.
Yeah, they've never had a real
They don't have that guy
there. They've never even really had a guy that you would look at and say, like, oh, he might even grow into that.
Yeah, I mean, like, they got DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, this year.
They
That would be and that's a great move if it was 2020, I think. I don't think that didn't work. Let's put it this way. DeAndre Hopkins didn't help the Chiefs. And I think they have a much better offense than what the Ravens have. And I think there's just at these moments where we've seen Pat Mahomes deliver, we've seen Joe Burrow deliver, we've seen Josh Allen deliver. In those playoff games, something happens with Lamar where I think he knows that this throw is what's going to make or break the game, and he just doesn't do it. And it's always good. I think defenses are hell-bent to not make it be his feet. I think 10.5 looks good for an over. I just can't get on board with. I really want to say that they're going to win it, and it's mainly just because, like, obviously we're throwing the Browns out, and I honestly don't think no matter what Pittsburgh does with Aaron Rodgers, it's just not going to matter. It's really the Bengals. If the Bengals start off good, if they go like 2-3 even, I feel like that would be really good for them. And if their defense just takes even a slight jump, and there's no signs that it should, but who knows? Maybe they just catch lightning in a bottle and it does. I think that would be a more feel. I fear that team offensively more. I would say I think the Bengals are going to be the team to beat in the AFC North. It's just like I just feel like I just don't think that Lamar is the guy. But I do think we are rapidly approaching this now or never. And I know who I have to win the Super Bowl, who I think is going to win the whole thing, and that's probably going to shock you guys too. But
we'll end with that.
Bills, I just don't think that. I think it's either now or never for some of these teams, and I think Baltimore is one of those teams. And if it doesn't happen now, I don't know what you have to do to the team outside of getting and they need an A.J. Brown, someone like that. That's what they need to make it. It's not Zay Flowers. It's not whatever miscellaneous receivers that are kind of scattered around the league, and they're all decent guys, but they're not that guy. They're just Jags, and you need somebody that's like the fear of God player.
Yeah, that does seem to be their problem. They just can't get quite enough juice on the offensive side, and their receivers have always been kind of meh. And now, the younger tight end is now dealing with an injury. He's going to probably miss a couple of weeks. It's just this. I think you hit the head on the nail, Ron. With there's just something with Lamar. He's not there. It's kind of like last season we saw it with Justin Herbert. He threw 3 interceptions in a game after throwing 2 all season. He's just not made for that moment.
No, and I'm rooting for him too because he seems. Outside of the fact that he's a Raven, and I don't want the Ravens to have any success, but he seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm and I'm biased, I kind of.
Yeah, but Ron,
like most black people,
he has
sort
of like curled hair, and he doesn't, his hair's, weird. It's weird hair, Ron, so you can't trust him.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if you know this, but black people generally will root for any black athlete. We're just like pulling for them, even though it's a little bit, just a slight bit. But but I don't want to step on your points. But yeah, I just don't think he has that. But I think he could be. I think he could.
Yeah, he's subjected to so much nonsense noise on both sides. Like, people, I think, elevate him to a level that, you got to win a Super Bowl to be talked about like that. It's just how it is. And on the other side, there's detractors that, there's still people in the league that probably think he shouldn't be a quarterback, which I just, after seeing what we've seen, I know there's guys that think that way, and I don't know what is wrong with them. He's clearly proven that he can be a quarterback, and a really fucking good one in the NFL. He just might not be good enough to win a Super Bowl. That's a long list. It would be shocking if he didn't make a Super Bowl, but there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in the league, like the gentleman you are probably going to talk about quite a bit here when we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Their over-under sits at 10.5. Their Super Bowl odds, I thought, would be better than plus 2,000, but that's where they stand. Plus 850 to win the conference. There's some places that have Cincinnati at plus 150 to win the division, which I think is kind of crazy. But Ron, you like the Cincinnati Bengals team. Why do you like them so much?
I feel like there's too much talent on that offense to just not. We've seen teams get carried by their offense, just like we've seen teams get carried by their defense. And I just feel like it's one of those things that, I feel like if they get into a game where it's going to be Bengals and Ravens, I think that it's going to be the Bengals that come out on top, because they have not only just one guy, but they have two guys I think would arguably be the number one receiver for the Ravens. And they have a quarterback that just doesn't seem to get frazzled that much unless he is, strangely enough, playing against the Browns. So
I will say, I think for the Ravens, the addition of Owuzie and Jair Alexander probably slow down that Bengals offense some.
It's going to have to.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But Joe Burrow has a terrible record against Baltimore. He's head-to-head with Lamar, isn't he? 1-6 or something?
Yeah.
Sorry, he's 3-6. He's 3-6 versus the Ravens.
Yeah, he's due. I like those odds.
He's due. Okay. I share your enthusiasm for their offense. They should be awesome again, and I like that they played their. I like that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase played, because how Burrow did not play well in that game against New England, and that's why they lost that game, and that's what cost them a playoff spot. So they have to be better at the beginning of the season. I don't have any concerns for them. It's that defense looks absolutely terrible, and that's why I think the Bengals are going to be an under. Jimmy, break the tie. Where do you think the Cincinnati Bengals land?
So one thing, I want to give the Bengals front office credit again, just like I did a couple years ago. When the problem the team had was the offensive line, as we talked about on our podcast, every free agent signing they made and every draft pick they made was on the offensive line. This year, I believe they drafted maybe one running back and one offensive lineman, and every other draft pick and free agent signing was on the defense. So I think their front office is very intelligent. I think Zach Taylor, I'm always going to think Zach Taylor's a pretty crappy coach, and I think that holds them back a lot. I found them I get plus 105, taking the under at 9.5, which is where I think they're going to end up. I think they're going to finish at 9. I look at their schedule once again, just the groupings of the games for the teams in the AFC North are tough. I do think they have to start fast for a change. They usually start slow, come on at the end of the season. They've got to come on fast. I think they could go 3-1 or 4-0 to start the season, but they have a rough stretch in the middle. I think they get to 9. I don't know if that puts them in the playoffs yet. I haven't finished all my AFC predictions, but I think they get to 9. I don't think they get to 10. And, Ron, I agree with you. I love watching Joe Burrow throw the football. I love watching their offense. I just think their defense is still not going to be good enough, unfortunately. But, I mean, maybe – but then how good does their defense have to be? Like, can you just hold the other team to 3 touchdowns because Joe's giving you 4? But
I mean, we saw that game last year. Their offense was amazing last year. How much better are they going to be? Like, do you have worries about their defense, Ron, holding up?
I do. I think their defense is absolutely horrific. And I think the only other thing that I think sabotages the Bengals is just the stuff that they do with their front office when it comes to paying players. I mean,
like their first-round defensive end and their Pro Bowl defensive end, so if they can't rush the passer, that might be a problem.
Yeah, I think if that's going to be the thing that really sets them off. I mean, I know Joe Burrow is under contract, I think until 2029, I want to say, maybe. But I think they got to get this done while he's, like, under this contract, or else he's going to be like, I got to get the hell out of here. I do think that their defense will get them in a lot of problems. But, like, looking at their schedule, they're at the Browns, not a difficult place to come play, even though historically they have had some issues with the Browns. They play the Jaguars at home, they play the Vikings on the road, and then they go to Denver. So you come out of that 2-1, I think they're going to be in a good place to go. And if you watch, like, that quarterback's doc on Netflix, you saw that they started so slow. I mean, it's just like, it was ridiculous. Yeah. And I think they can't afford to have bad offense and bad defense.
No.
So if their offense comes up and starts humming right away, then that will be good. So then when maybe the defense can kind of just catch lightning in a bottle for a couple of games and do what they need to do.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I just think, Joe Burrow's another one of those players that, some people have the blinders on about, but I think for the Bengals to be as good as they need to be, Joe Burrow has to be a superstar every week, and there are weeks where he doesn't play up to his level, and there's no excuse for it, really. They've got a good offensive line now. They've got great skill players. He can't control the defense, but he's got to be great every week, and he's had trouble. Now, I know a lot of it's been nagging injuries to start years, but I believe he's pretty healthy this year. And I agree with you, Ron. Like I said, I think they could be 4-0 to start the season, which is what they'll need to be to get somewhere during the year. But Joe Burrow's got to be a superstar out the gate. He can't be messing around. If the Ravens may be gettable, but they're only gettable if Joe Burrow plays like to the talent level he's capable of.
Yeah, I'll just if they can somehow get something decent out of that defense, maybe they get a bunch of turnovers this year, then they're definitely in the conversation for a Super Bowl team. A team that every year their over-under is 8.5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And every single fucking year they have a winning record because we are Browns fans and the world hates us. Jimmy, they go get Aaron Rodgers, they trade for DK Metcalf, they sign TJ Watt. Is this the year the Pittsburgh Steelers finally have a losing record?
So I found it. I got minus 100 on an over of 8.5. I look at the way their schedule plays out. I believe Aaron Rodgers may have just enough in the tank with this skill position group because I actually think their skill position group is pretty good. The defense is still very talented. I think they still get to 9 wins. I think they get to 9 wins. I really do. Ron, maybe you can break another tie for me and Evan. We disagree on what level of play Will Howard may be able to provide at the NFL level if Rodgers doesn't pan out. But I think Aaron Rodgers will be good enough with this roster. I think he was never quite comfortable in the big city of New York because it was too much all the time. I think Pittsburgh will feel more like home, more like the Green Bay environment. And I think if there's anything left in him to give the football. Mike Tomlin will squeeze it out of him on another 9-win season.
Yeah, I mean, the only other bets that I think are as guaranteed as Steelers having a winning record under Mike Tomlin are Service Academy unders in college football. Those are the only other ones that I will go with. Those unders, I think it's like something like 48 and like 7 or something like that. I was like, I'll take the under the first day it comes out. I love it. I'll take every inch of it. Yeah, I think that I agree. I don't think he was comfortable in New York. I feel like here in Pittsburgh, this is more of a Green Bay type of city. Obviously not a small city, but kind of more blue collar, not as flashy. He can kind of disappear a little bit, I feel like.
Well, I mean, it's
for a little bit.
Definitely a small city compared to New York.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything is. Yeah. And I think there's a coach that he can respect. So I feel like he will have a certain amount of trust with Mike Tomlin in that Pittsburgh organization. I still think this kind of is still like Flacco. It's just like he was okay, but like I don't know like if he's still Superman. I don't think he's still as Superman at 50, the same Superman at 25. No, it's not the same guy. Yeah. But it's still a pretty good quarterback. I do like them bringing in Metcalf. I think that's a pretty good upgrade over Pickens. And I don't follow the Steelers as much. I just have to really trust one of my best friends is a Steelers fan, and so I know he doesn't think that Will Howard is going to be a guy that can do things. And I was like, I trust Will Howard a little bit more. Maybe it's just the Buckeye homer in me, but I think they could give him some red zone stuff, and I think he could run that ball in there and do some things with that. And I think that would help their offense some. I think that also just kind of getting rid of Minka. It seems like that swap of Minka for Jalen Ramsey was like, hey, Minka's causing problems here, and they're like, oh, Jalen's causing problems here. Well, let's switch them. And nothing's supposed to be solved. So I don't know how that's going to work. But Pickens was obviously causing them problems last year. So how is that chemistry? They obviously let go of Najee, and so now you have an all new running back. I do like the kid out of Iowa. And I don't think those are tough players, and that's going to look great in Pittsburgh. So that 9, give it to me all day. I'll take it. It might happen on the last week of the season, but it's happening.
Well, because I actually, that's something I think they could very well be stuck at 8 for a few games, and they play the Ravens the last week of the season, and I could see the Ravens not needing that game and it being a second bye for the Ravens, and the Steelers sneaking that 9th win against the Ravens backups.
Yeah, and 100%, even with Mason Rudolph, they looked okay. And I hate Mason Rudolph.
It's just infuriating.
Yeah.
Every year I think the same thing about this team. I look at their quarterback, I look at the roster, I look at their schedule, and I'm like, that looks like 7 wins. And then they somehow pull 3 more wins out of their ass. So I'm with you guys. I don't think, in my head, I look at it and I go, there's no way they're going to win 9 games. But every year I think that, and every year I'm fucking wrong. So I'm taking the over on the 8.5. And I think you can get plus odds on them to make the playoffs, and you should probably do that, because if any team's going to sneak into the fucking last spot of the playoffs, it's going to be the Steelers. This is just what they do. It's annoying. Browns fans say that's the worst thing ever, but I don't know. What do you think about that, Ron? Them making the playoffs every year and then just losing in the first round. Would you rather be on that track, or would you rather be on whatever the hell we're on with the Browns?
I think that competency is in respect is always better than whatever the Browns have going on.
That is well said.
We're not even the lovable losers anymore. That got taken over. Look at the Lions. The Lions have really taken that kind of mediocrity and patheticness and really turned it up and turned it into something special. And the Browns, I think, were on a path for that a little bit, and of course they derailed themselves. I can definitely see that. It's probably a good bet to do. I think there is so much talent in the AFC that it's going to be really hard to. I think it's going to be hard for them to get past Cincinnati and Baltimore. And I mean, as good as Pittsburgh's defense has been, they also suffer from a lot of injuries.
That's all true.
TJ Watt doesn't play as much. Like, when he's off the field, things change. I mean, quite a bit.
Yeah, he's like Myles Garrett for them. When he's not on the field, their defense is gettable.
Yep.
So let's wrap up here. You like Cincinnati. Jimmy and I both think Baltimore is going to win the division, so bet accordingly. And again, shop around, find your best odds. You teased you have a sort of out of the blue, or I should say it was a surprising Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl? And who do you think is going to win it?
So I don't necessarily think this is – I may have oversold the out of the blue. I just think the reports of the demise and the downturn of the Kansas City Chiefs are vastly overrated. If there's one team that I pick to take a weakness and fix it, I think it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're going to try to get one more for Travis, and the reports are that he looks pretty good in camp. Yeah. I think one of the stories from last year was Isaiah Pacheco, and if I'm not mistaken, he was injured for part of that. Coming in,
a big chunk of the season.
I think that he just wasn't running the same. But I feel like with these running backs, they always look better the year after an injury. And so I think they have him. I think they did some great things by getting, and I know I just forgot a Buckeye name off of the top of my head, bringing him in off of left tackle. So versatile last year in the playoff run. So I'm going to go with Kansas City to win the whole thing. I think that the Rams, and I'm going to make this really contingent on Stafford not having a big problem with his I believe it's his back.
Yeah, he's got a disc problem in his low back.
I think Devontae Adams is – you swapped up Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams, and we saw Devontae Adams is still a great player. Now, Devontae plays on a different team every year now, but still, with good quarterback and that offensive head coach, that's going to look good. So I think you're going to get the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that the Rams are going to I think the Chiefs are going to make everyone forget. They got the chip on their shoulder. They look terrible in the Super Bowl. And as long as they don't have to play the Eagles, I think maybe they'll find a way to kind of get around that.
Wow. Yeah, I still don't know. Have you made your Super Bowl picks yet, Jimmy? Do you know who you're taking?
So here is where I will go. I haven't quite nailed down yet who I think is going to win, but I will say I believe the AFC representative will not be the Kansas City Chiefs, and I believe the NFC representative will not be Philadelphia or Detroit. So I like Ron's Rams prediction. There's also another team that plays in the NFC that I think is in a really soft division this year, where they could actually sweep the division and give themselves a chance at making a deep playoff run. So
you like the Buccaneers, is what you're saying?
I didn't say that, Ron. I didn't say that.
That was the other team I was thinking. That's the other team I was thinking about too. But
I didn't say that. I didn't say that yet. You didn't hear that.
I don't think that's crazy because Tampa, they also play the AFC South, so that's 10 games against the two South divisions. Like they could go 9-1 in those games. Like there's not a lot of talent in those divisions. And if they set themselves up as a 1 seed, then, okay, you've set yourself up maybe if some things fall right. They did beat Philadelphia in a playoff game. I don't think Tampa can make the Super Bowl because I think the Eagles are I think that defense is so good and is going to continue to be good. I'm trying to find reasons to not think that it's going to be Kansas City and Philadelphia again. I do like the Rams. Well, I mean, look, this is year 7 with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They've won the division 7 times, which, by the way, you can get them at like minus 110 to win the division because everybody loves the Chargers. But every year they win the division. Every year they go to the AFC Championship game, And most of the years, they win that game and go to the Super Bowl, and like half the time they win it. Like if you're not betting them to win the Super Bowl and win the AFC every year, you're depriving yourself of money because they're just going to be there every year. So I'm with you, Ron. I'm probably going to settle on KC winning the Super Bowl because I think they're better than they were last year for all the reasons you mentioned. If that kid at left tackle can really end up solidifying the position, like we've never seen Buffalo or Baltimore be able to beat Kansas City, so why are they going to start now? Like what changed there, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Jimmy, when we get to those teams, you can tell us. That'll be a little teaser for those divisions.
Yeah, I think I truthfully, I got some thoughts on Buffalo, and I really do. I think the additions that the Ravens made on defense are going to make them a much harder out in the playoffs. I think that drive where Lamar messes up every year that Ron talks about, I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I don't know if teams are going to be able to force that drive onto him.
Yeah. Well,
I think I was going to say that I think that in a lot of ways, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are kind of like opposites of each other, especially since Tyreek Hill. Like we know this since Tyreek left and even kind of once the enemy left, the punch out of that offense has gone down. But the one thing that is safe to say is that when 15 needs to make a throw, he gets that throw. And it could be to their backup tight end, it could be to anybody. And Lamar doesn't seem to have that. And I don't see a huge difference in the talent surrounding the quarterback. I mean, Baltimore definitely has a better offensive line than Kansas City has in the last 2 years, I'd say. The receivers, Rasheed Rice has been nice, but he might not even play. Worthy's kind of who knows? The jury's still out on that. So, when you kind of mash those two teams up, it's which quarterback and which coach do you trust? And Josh Simmons was who they got out of Ohio State to play tackle.
Yes,
thank
you.
And I feel like he will really help stabilize that line. Such an impressive performance last year. So, it's just funny. They're kind of like the opposite players. Like one guy, it's like you watch these games, Pat's going to make this throw, and he does. And then you watch the Ravens, Lamar's not going to make this throw, and he doesn't. And it's just that it always comes down to that one throw during the most important game, and it's just not there.
Yeah, that's where I think betting against Patrick Mahomes in those moments is just, if you bet on Patrick Mahomes, you're going to win more than you lose. You're going to make money, which is what this is all about. Make money. Well, that wraps it up.
Here.
Ron, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your insight. I'm glad we got a little difference here with you liking Cincinnati for the division. Obviously, we all think the Browns are going to be pretty bad, so I guess there's nothing we can do about that, is there?
No. And as much as I like Cincinnati, I want to make sure for any of your listeners that are in the Cincinnati area that you don't like that trash chili that they have down there, or stuff that they call chili. It's an abomination. If the Bengals really do end up losing, because the city of Cincinnati represents that stuff so bad. And driving past Columbus today and seeing it, it really made me just really upset seeing such a disgraceful food item in our, very beautiful, regal state of Ohio. It's bringing the whole thing down.
I agree with you. It's disgusting. It's terrible. Nobody should go there. Jimmy, it was a lot of fun getting to do this. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Put that shit on spaghetti. It's delicious.
You crazy dog. You crazy.
Hey, no, I'm glad we were able to get the AFC North going. I think, it might not, sometimes it's not the most talented division, but, man, we know how important the AFC North games are to playoff seedings, and there's usually some incredible games who would have thought the Jameis Snow game last year, stuff like that. So
it's always exciting.
I'm glad we got the AFC North out the way to start the year.
And I would like to thank all of you for listening. For Jimmy Champ and Ron Brown, I am Evan Belfiore. Thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.